It's never been this bad. Even Karl Marx's analysis didn't envision something this bad. Professor Richard Wolff says we need to learn from the lessons of these situations, and Americans need to learn what class warfare means. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And what more appropriate guest to have on the day that we learned that the economy contracted by almost 33%, 32.9%, a record crash. I mean, this is Great Depression level. In fact, worse than Great Depression level. Contraction of GDP, I believe. Then Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, co-founder of democracyatwork.info, author of numerous books, his most recent Understanding Socialism, rdwolff2fs.com, as well his Twitter handle, Prof. Wolff. Professor Wolff, first of all, there was an AP NORC poll of businesses that suggests that half of the jobs that have been lost in the last 6 months during the whole Trump virus thing will never come back. And that, we're going to fundamentally have to restructure our society. And then on top of that, we get this report today of this 32.9% plunge in GDP. Where do we go from here? What does this mean? How do we reinvent an economy?
Well, I think the first step has to be to put aside the level of denial that has accompanied what we've been going through for at least the last 15 weeks. It starts at the top with a studied effort to deny the pandemic, to deny the crash, and now to deny the scope of what it is we are going through. It boggles my mind. I am not the only one. But before we can talk about what has to come next, there has to be some kind of end to the make-believe, to the notion that we are in a place where fiddling around at the edges of our economic difficulties is adequate. I mean, that's what Republicans and Democrats alike have been doing. If you watch the debates these days, it is surrealistic. In the midst of a crash that is like the Greatest Depression of the 1930s, which was the greatest crash of capitalism until the one we're in now, you would imagine that you're on another planet. Really? In the depths of the Greatest Depression, you're going to reduce the amount of help you give to unemployed people when half their jobs are never coming back, as per your quotation, when the jobs that will be there will be under enormous pressure from the employer to cut wages, to cut benefits, to demand more time, a speedier process. The worst isn't the people who won't get a job. The worst is the people who will discover that the job they've had all along, or the one they're returning to, is going to be occurring in an economy that is geared up to take the most away from the mass of people as the way to get through it. Let me put it one other way. There is a phrase called class war. Americans are now going to have to understand that that's where we are, and that we are going into a period of time, whoever wins the presidency in November, of unparalleled historical conflict as we try to figure out who is going to have to give up what in order to reconstruct a functioning economy.
It's going to be a huge debate. It's going to be a huge issue. We've talked many times over the last years, Professor Wolff, about setting aside capitalism, reinventing capitalism, reinventing socialism. Kind of in the micro, turning businesses from for-profit capitalist enterprises into cooperatives, things like that. This seems so much larger and more structural than small fixes. I mean, this seems like it requires please, I'd love your thoughts on this. It seems to me like what we're facing right now is something that is even a greater crisis than the ones that Marx was addressing back in the 1860s. where do we find, some solutions or some model that could work?
Well, I mean, that's the debate we're about to have. Let me try to give you some parameters or some dimensions of it. We live in a capitalist system in which the following governs what happens. Profit. Is it profitable for John or Mary or Bill to start a business, to build a business, to hire people, hire more people? The answer is always, in a capitalist system, we will do it if and insofar as it is profitable. You keep your job so long as your employer profits from selling what you help to produce. Here is the question then. Will that system that allows the decision about how many jobs are going to be created and what kind of world we live in to be determined by a subset of the population, the people in the business of making profits? And let's remember, profits are something employers are driven by, and employers are a very small minority of our total population. Are we as a society going to be willing to have our jobs, our income, our very lives in the hands of a minority driven by profit? Can we wait that long until it's profitable for us all to have a job? Can we wait that long until it's profitable to make our income in that job sufficient to raise a family under the conditions we thought were ours as American citizens? I fear that the answer to that question is no, that we are not going to wait indefinitely. We are not going to allow that minority to continue in that dominant position, because now they cannot deliver to us the jobs, the incomes, the rising standard of living that we thought was something somehow built into the United States. It is now going to be a period of time as Americans discover that what they have denied, namely that this system can break down, that this system may not be the best way to solve the problems of producing the goods and services and distributing them in a socially sustainable way, they're going to discover now that that's an open question, not a settled question, and then all bets are off, because the presumptions about our politics, about our culture, about the communities we live in are about to be undone as the implications of this crisis begin slowly to get stronger than our powers of denial have so far kept them from being.
And yet we've seen where government has replaced employers as the employer, presumably acting on behalf of the people, and it didn't work out all that well in East Germany or the Soviet Union.
Absolutely not, and it's not working out real well now. And you have to face then the reality that what they did in the Soviet Union or what they did elsewhere was to stay with the employer-employee relationship, changing who the employer was, not private citizens, but now government officials. And you're discovering, as you rightly say, I agree with you, that wasn't the solution either. So the question then is, can we change the very basic way we decide who works, what he or she works for, how they get paid, and we can't go on with the way we have been doing it, because that's what got us here.